We're now starting with nationalism in India. You're of course more familiar with our own history. So here you should get your full marks. Let us look at the first one. Gandhiji returned from dash in dash. Okay. He came to India in which year and from where? So he came from South Africa in the year 1915. So if they ask you who returned from South Africa in 1915, then the answer will be Gandhiji. And in case they ask you when did Gandhiji return, then you will say 1915. From where did Gandhiji return to India? Then you will have to answer South Africa. Okay, so for one-liner, be careful what they have asked. Second question. Champaran Satyagraha was launched in 1916. That means immediately he came in 1915 and the first Satyagraha that he launched was at Champaran. Third question. The Jallianwala Bagh incident took place at dash in dash. So whenever you have at, you have to write the place here, and whenever you have in, that means you have to write the year. So it took place at Amritsar in 1919, but you can be more specific. In 1919, that is 13th April. So if it was given on, then you have to write on 13th April 1919. But when in is given, then we know we have to put the year. Next, dash imposed martial law. Now this is connected with Jallianwala Bagh incident. Who was the one who declared martial law? Who was the one who gave order to fire? That was General Dyer. Okay. So if they ask who imposed martial law, we have the answer General Dyer. Next, dash formed the Khilafat committee in Bombay. We will continue to write Bombay even though today the new name is Mumbai, because when we do history, at that time during the British Raj, the name was Bombay. Okay, so Bombay, Madras and Calcutta will be called the same, exactly the same when we are talking about them in history. So, who formed the Khilafat movement in Bombay? Ali brothers. Have you got these? Okay, we are going on to the sixth one now. Dash wrote the book Hind Swaraj. This was Mahatma Gandhi. Even if you wrote only Gandhiji, even then it is okay. Now the problem is, if they ask which book did Gandhiji write, then he has written more than one book. So then it can be of course Hind Swaraj, that was one of the books that he wrote. He also wrote an autobiography that was called My Experiments with Truth. So then there could be more than one answer, but for this who wrote the book Hind Swaraj, there is only one answer, that is Mahatma Gandhi, or you can write Gandhiji. Seventh, under Dash Act, plantation workers were not allowed to leave the tea gardens without permission. Now what is the name of that act? The name of that act was Inland Emigration. So they had to take permission before they could go anywhere. Now this was in 1859. Of course they have not asked you, but they can ask you slightly differently, in which year was the Inland Emigration Act passed. So then you will have to write in 1859. Or according to the Inland Emigration Act of 1859, what was not allowed? So then you will have to say that plantation workers were not allowed to leave the tea garden without permission. Eighth question. Dash led the movement of earth during the non-cooperation movement. So here we have Baba Ramchandra, who led the movement. So, if they ask you who led the movement or in which place did Baba Ramchandra lead the movement during non-cooperation. So, that will be in Audh. Ninth question. Dash headed the Awadh Kisan Sabha. So, here we have Jawaharlal Nehru. He was the one who headed this Kisan Sabha. Or if they ask in a different way, which Sabha did Jawaharlal Nehru head? Then it will be the Awadh Kisan Sabha. 10th question. The Justice Party of Madras was formed by whom? So, it will be by the non-Brahmins. Okay, here also you will not write Chennai, you will write Madras because it was the name at that particular time. Let us look at question 11. The non-cooperation Khilafat movement began in dash. That means we have to write in which year. So, this was in January 1921. Okay, so if you only write in 1921, good enough. But if you can remember in January 1921, that will be even better. Next question that we have, the resolution of Purna Swaraj was adopted at the Congress session at which place? So, the 12th one we have, it was adopted at Lahore. When they had the Congress session at Lahore, that time they decided that we are not going to make do with only maybe political status which is given to us like dominion status or provincial autonomy. We want Purna Swaraj. Okay. In 1930, you know that they already started unfurling the Indian tricolored flag. 13th, the Pune Pact was signed in. So, now here we have to write the year. So, this was in 1932. It can come as match the column also. That means the year might be given on one side, all the different years and all the different things or the events which took place, you might have to match. 14th question, dash was known as Frontier Gandhi. Now, he was known as Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, or in your book it is simply written Abdul Ghaffar Khan. He was fighting on the northwest frontier border and he had a group of people known as Khudai Khidmatgar, who used to also be known as red shirts, okay, because they used to wear red color shirts. 15th one, dash organized the Dalits into the Depressed Classes Association. So, this was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. If you want to write the full form also you can write Baba Saheb Ambedkar they call him, but otherwise his name was Bhim Rao Ambedkar. Okay, but we commonly write Dr. B.R. Ambedkar organized the Dalits into the Depressed Classes Association. He himself belonged to the depressed classes. He knew what it felt like to be treated unequally, and which is why he started this. The 16th one, the Hindustan Socialist Republican Army was founded at, so now we have to write at which place. So, this was founded at Firoz Shah Kotla ground. All of you must probably know this because they play cricket. Firoz Shah Kotla ground you must be knowing, or the stadium, and this is at Delhi. So, that is where it was started. The Socialist Republican Party, if you know, one of the famous people in that was Chandrasekhar Azad. The reason why he was called Azad, because he was the last one to be caught. He was always Azad till the end. 17th one, the provision in the Dash Pact was to release the political prisoners. That means which pact was signed so that the political prisoners would be released. This was the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. This was signed in 1931, after which Gandhiji also went for the second roundtable conference and the political prisoners were released. Okay, so that was one of the provision. 18th, the famous novel Anand Mat was written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. They also call him as Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, but in Bengali they say Chattopadhyay. Now, if this question is changed slightly, if they ask you who wrote the national song, not the national anthem, please note national anthem is different from national song. The national song, Vande Mataram, even then you have the same, that is Bankim Chandra Chatterjee or Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. So he wrote Anand Mat, which is a novel, and in that there was a poem which was made into a song, and that is Vande Mataram. Now he had written Vande Mataram. Why? Because in Bengali we don't have the letter V. Even Rabindranath Tagore, in Bengali they say Ravindranath Tagore, no, they say Rabindranath Tagore because they pronounce V as B. So we will say Vande Mataram, but otherwise they might write Bande Mataram. So whatever is written in your textbook, please write the same spelling. So don't write Chatterjee, write Chattopadhyay because that is given in your textbook. 19th, Mahatma Gandhi launched Satyagraha in 1918 in which place? So this was at Ahmedabad. Some pronounce it as Ahmedabad, as long as you get your spelling correct. So the first one was at Champaranya, then he also launched Satyagraha at Ahmedabad and Kheda, as you know. And then of course the salt Satyagraha also was very famous. 20th, the countryside non-cooperation movement was started against whom exactly? So this was started against the Talukdars. So this was against the Talukdars. Okay, we continue. The 21st one, Gandhiji called off the non-cooperation movement in 1922. Do you remember the Chauri Chaura incident? Which is why he decided to call off the incident. 22nd, Gandhiji supported the peasants in the Kheda Satyagraha. Now, suppose you are asked, who was supported in the Kheda Satyagraha by Gandhiji? Then the answer will be peasants. Whom did he support in the Satyagraha at Ahmedabad? Then it will be the mill workers. And at Champaran, they were the indigo workers. Okay, so it depends on which place we are talking about. The year can come, whom he supported it can come, but all these Satyagrahas were led by Gandhiji. 23rd, the Swaraj Party was formed by Dash and Dash. Now the Swaraj Party was part of the Congress, but they had split slightly, they had different opinions. So it was formed by first C.R. Das, or if you want you can write Chittaranjan Das and Motilal Nehru. So be careful. Motilal Nehru is the father of Jawaharlal Nehru. So don't get the two confused. 24th, Simon Commission arrived in India in Dash. So we are supposed to write in which year it arrived. So this was in 1928. Now if they ask you slightly differently, what greeted the Simon Commission? Then there were protests of go back Simon. Okay, there were black flags, there was Hartal, in India, and that is how Simon Commission was welcomed over here. We can't really call it a welcome. 25th, Gandhiji started his famous salt Satyagraha from dash and marched up to dash. So from where did he start it? His ashram was in Sabarmati. You might have heard the song, साबरमती के संत तूने कर दिया कमाल, रघुपति राघव राजा राम दे दी हमें आज़ादी, बिना शस्त्र बिना ढाल, साबरमती के संत तूने कर दिया कमाल. Who was that? Gandhiji. He started from Sabarmati and till where did he march? Right up to Dandi. What was the Dandi march known as? So you can also say it was known as the Salt Satyagraha. From where did the Dandi march start? It started from Sabarmati. Who led the Salt Act or broke the Salt Act and started his Dandi march? Then the answer will be Gandhiji. So I can twist and turn the question and ask it in different ways. Let's continue. 26th one, the Pune Pact was signed between dash and dash. Now this was signed between Gandhiji and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Gandhiji was in Yeroda jail, that is in Pune, and he was very upset that Ambedkar was asking for separate seats for the Dalits. He did want them to have seats in the general election, which is why the Pune Pact was signed. That means Ambedkar understood why Gandhiji was saying this, because he realized that they were trying to separate the Dalits, the Muslims, and that is why he wanted general election seats. 27th, Abanindranath Tagore was, now what was his profession? So he was a painter. They have given you pictures of how Bharat Mata or the image of Bharat Mata was created. So this was the painter Abanindranath Tagore. Let us go to the 28th one. The folklore of southern India was written by Natesa Sastri. Okay, so who wrote the folklore of southern India? So you can see it was written by Natesa Sastri. And with that we come to the last question, 29th one. The leader of the militant guerrilla movement in the Gundan Hills was. So this was Alluri Sitaram Raju. They can also ask you, which movement did Alluri Sitaram Raju lead? So then you will have to say the militant guerrilla movement in the Gundan Hills. That means that was the movement that he led. So it doesn't matter if they change the style of asking the question, you should still be able to answer. Have you got all of these? Now these are about our Indian history, so you must know it nicely, and I don't expect you to lose marks.